Hi everyone. Today we are recording sort of a mini series with Partho. Pranam Partho. So Partho has been a friend and a teacher to me and many of us in the community for I think 12, 13 years. And when I say teacher, I would say teacher of life, at least to a lot of us. And in our own journey of trying to understand the world of startups and business and how to do it better, we've always found a lot of value in discussions and wisdom which we had from Partho. So we felt it will be good to sort of bring this out as a podcast. So, Partho, my first sort of intent is to see if we can, what should be the right way to understand the business and the startup ecosystem, which is such an important component of our society today. And where does it exist in the larger framework of human nature, human society? What role is it playing right now? And how does an individual startup founder fit into that? So what's the current, how are things as they are? And as we discussed before, we will keep it as a adult conversation, where we call things as they are and maybe issue a statutory warning to people that they should be ready to take that on. So if you can just, share some understanding of.
Would this be in the context of conscious work and conscious businesses? Or?
Yes, the context, that's a good point. So context is that as a community at Supermorpheus, our intent is to bring together people who feel that something is not right in the current business ecosystem, and they wish to discover a different, for them more meaningful, maybe more conscious way of doing businesses. But it's hard to get that absolute clarity in the depths of what is the current system which we are part of, because the system has gone so much deep into us, we may not even realize that. So just to get an understanding and how to then, of course, move towards a more conscious and more evolutionary business paradigm, at least for us, may not be for the world.
Right.
And it has been my own question for a very long time, and I'm still sort of struggling to fully grasp it. So I think it will be very helpful for our audience and for the community people who have that similar intent of discovering a more conscious.
Yeah. So Samir, I think it will be most useful for us to start with a more fundamental question.
Yes.
Why do I want to do what I want to do?
Yeah.
So what is my deeper intention?
Yes.
So as we have discussed many times before, whether in schooling or parenting or businesses, or any activity, any field of human life, there would be two kinds of people, generally speaking. One would be those who are very much part of the system and have accepted the system for what it is. Probably they don't always feel good about it, but they have accepted it. And when I say accepted it, it also means that somewhere within themselves they feel that, not much can be done about it. It's a huge system.
Yeah.
And it's very natural for most people to feel like cogs in the wheel of this huge system. So even though you may not feel good about certain aspects of the system, you live with it. You learn to live with it. So this is the kind of people I would call status quoists.
Yeah.
Rather maintain things as they are and not rock the boat too much.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because rocking the boat means they also get rocked in the process. And the other kind of people would be the non-status quoists, the rebels, the kind of people who, as you said yourself a while ago, who feel that there's something wrong in the system, so that all is not good with the system. and have delved deep enough into the system and its processes and its mechanisms to be able to also feel that not only things are not all well with the system, but they also have a feel of what is not right, and perhaps even what needs to be set right. And these are the people who are not inspired by the status quoist motives of just making money and keeping things afloat.
Yeah.
These would be people who wouldn't be afraid to rock the boat because they feel this very clear will and need within themselves to change things for the better. So the rebels, the revolutionaries. So if an entrepreneur is also a revolutionary, then his or her purpose of being an entrepreneur is not just to set up a business venture and to make profit. It is to bring about a change in society, a change in way livelihoods are made, the way people work and live. So I presume when you talk of Supermorpheus as a community, you're talking about a community of revolutionaries, shall we say?
Yes, revolutionaries.
No, different points along the curve, of course.
Or also another word I think which suits a lot is the prime movers from the Ayn Rand.
Mind movers.
Prime movers.
Prime movers.
From the Ayn Rand.
Yes, prime mover. That's a good phrase. I like that, yes.
Yeah.
Prime movers. So yes, and when you say Ayn Rand, that sort of, I resonate with that because there too we had revolutionary
Yes.
individuals. At least the one individual I recall distinctly is John Galt
Yes.
from Atlas Shrugged, and a complete revolutionary of the spirit. And whatever he did, I mean, he did to create a new world, to create a new system. So if we're talking about entrepreneurs who want to create a new world order,
Yeah.
a new way of living and working, of earning money, of producing wealth,
Yes.
then these the motivation will be different. It will be arising from that burning need in oneself to create a new world order. That's where the transformative aspect will come in. The evolutionary aspect will come in. So then you'll have the status quoists keeping the world going as it is, not rock the boat. And then you'll have those who are consumed by an evolutionary zeal, those who want to move the world to the next level.
So if I may come in here, Partho, so I know a bunch of such people who genuinely feel that they would like to contribute to a better world. And I see two things over there. One is that they feel that they are already ready to do that, and or they might read certain books and content. But what I've seen as a limitation is I feel that, and I also, I mean, it happened. It's also my own process that if I wish to transform the world, have I transformed myself?
Yeah.
If not fully, but to some degree, am I also in that journey that I have, I don't know what to call it, understanding capacity. And many times either it becomes ineffective because you're trying to change the world but you don't have the capacity. Many times it becomes a slightly, because you get stuck with a particular view of how the world should be, your own ego sort of takes that shape and then you try to just make the world of that type basically. That also becomes a, that this is how the world should be, I've understood. So how does one, what's the first step if somebody has that aspiration?
So since you mentioned we have an adult conversation, in the sense that we call a spade a spade.
Yes.
We try to see things as they are.
Yes.
So, to my mind, a lot has to do with the kind of a human being one is and wants to be.
Yeah.
I think that's the starting point of
Yes.
all beautiful and creative revolutions of
So
the
let's
spirit.
talk about from that starting point. If somebody is feeling that status
Yeah.
opposite of status quo, create something better, how
So,
should they?
what kind of human being do I want to be before I start thinking of a new world order?
Yeah.
You know, this is a fact that every creator, every entrepreneur creates a business or a world order or a social order in his or her image.
Yes.
And that's the ultimate creative expression a person has. And not like, I am what I am, and I want to create a social condition and economic condition around me that reflects what I am,
Yeah.
who I am. So, if the first thing I feel is to be very clear about what kind of a person one is, what
Yes.
kind of a person the entrepreneur is.
Yes.
That will determine the kind of revolution he or she would want to bring
Yeah.
or want to express. So, what kind of a human being are we talking about? We are talking about a human being who, just to begin with, very basics, who has worked out his or her kinks, who has worked out the more serious glitches of his or her being. More practically speaking, someone who has worked out his or her insecurities and fear. That's where it all starts from.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
what are the 3 or 4 things that really, seriously vitiate life and work on this planet? Insecurity and fear, greed and unreasonable ambition. Ambition which does not, I would say, ambition which is not compassionate, which is not wise and compassionate.
That's very good. Yeah.
You know, arrogant ambition,
Yeah.
ambition that doesn't give a damn to the other.
Yeah.
So that kind of ambition vitiates work and life on earth.
Yeah.
So insecurity and fear, ambition, greed, and this need to dominate,
Yeah.
the need to be, the leader of the pack, as it were. Sort of a throwback to your ancestry. You need to be a leader of the pack, the alpha person.
Yes.
Authoritarianism that stems not from a need to lead or guide, or the authoritarianism of consciousness and wisdom and knowledge, but authoritarianism of the ego, the need to control people.
Yeah.
So that's something we need to understand. And let me go over it once more quickly. Fears and insecurities,
Yes.
greed and ambition, the cruel kind of arrogant ambition, the need to dominate, to be authoritarian, to rule, to push, to bend people to your will. I've seen this in so many successful businessmen and entrepreneurs and leaders, to bend people to your will. So put all that together and you have a system that really needs to be, if not changed, seriously examined.
So I think I'll just play a devil's advocate here. So what I've seen, because it's so difficult. Let's say I wish to create a business like that. I have to build a team and I have to have people who work for me. So human nature being human nature, it's difficult to transform them. So I think that is
so
what
again,
leads to this justification of that I must control, I must tell people what to do,
Yes.
because that seems to be the force of, as we call it, rajas. To use that.
If I may take you back again to the point we just made. First, I have to be that kind of a person. So I have to work out my fears and insecurities.
Yeah.
That's the first thing I need to do. If I'm carrying my insecurities as a leader, to my leadership, as if I'm carrying my human fears and insecurities and vulnerabilities and the fragilities of my being into my role as a leader and a creator and an entrepreneur, then I'm going to create a system that just reflects my insecurities and fears
Yeah.
and my vulnerabilities,
Which is driven by the domination,
which is driven by fear and
authority.
insecurity. That's it. And then if I want to dominate people, if I want to control people, it'll come out of that
Yes.
insecurity
Inwardly,
and
yes,
fear.
yes.
You see? So first thing is I need to work my insecurities and my fears out. And that would make me a learning being. And a learning being is essentially humble. So I don't see a lot of humility in people who lead. Probably because to lead, you have to first be successful. You have to touch a level of success to be a leader. But by the time you touch that level of success, you have become arrogant, because deep inside you have started as an insecure person, a child, let's say a kind of an inner child that still needs to be approved of by others and who's still seeking for approval. And that's why the need to please others and to be what others want you to be and not to push others, not all that we are so familiar with. So it begins with that, doesn't it? First, I have to be free of my insecurities so that I don't bring my insecurities into my work. So that itself is a tall order. How many human beings do we know of who have absolutely no insecurities and fears, who are perhaps vulnerable in a good way, but not fragile?
So are you saying that, see, one thing what I see is that if people are feeling insecure and they still want to attain, so they use that insecurity as a drive to make things happen. I think what is not clear to a lot of people is that if I'm not insecure, then will I have any drive at all to build and lead? Will I be able to lead people? If I don't have aggression, if I don't have authority?
Yes, there are lots of presumptions in that.
Yes.
And I know that lots of people think that way.
So if you can clarify some of that.
Yeah, but it's a very poor system we'll have if that system is sustained entirely by my insecurities.
But that's where we are today, right? I mean,
So that's why we have such a messed up system.
yeah.
And when I look at businesses, since we're talking about businesses that have wanted to be conscious, I know a lot of these such efforts or attempts to create more conscious work environments and more conscious businesses, which haven't worked at all. So when I look at these attempts, I only see the failure of the leader or the leaders. If as a leader or as leaders, we haven't yet touched that inner light and inner wisdom and that inner core of what you and I would call dharma, then it's not going to happen. And then we'll keep making excuses and keep justifying what we're doing, and like, this is convenient and I cannot upset this person or that system. And at the end of the day, we have to make money and we have to make profits. We have to pay salaries and we have to, pay ourselves the money. As long as things like that are there on the mind, you can't make it happen.
So are you saying that when you use the word dharma, so that would signify the purpose?
Absolutely, yes.
And that then stands above all other considerations?
Yes, and when I say dharma, I am not talking about it as a mental concept. I know too many people who have very clear mental understanding and concept. But rubber hits the road, nothing happens, because it's all that is in the mind. In real life, it's not happening. So when I say dharma, I mean a dharma that you have touched and realized within yourself. You as a leader will have to have touched that core of your being, which we, in our language, we call psychic.
Yeah.
That is, I would say, an indispensable condition to building any kind of a conscious organization, or business, school, even a conscious family. Everything stems from how conscious you are of that which we call the psychic, or that which we call dharma, or the truly dharmic. So you have to be living that deep within yourself to be able to express that in your work.
And can we say that, I mean, knowing the dharma is also like knowing the true nature of reality in the universe,
So
how
again-
it came about, how it is trying to grow itself, and
Yes.
like, for example, one of the things, even at a physical scale, we look at, there is universe was always an expansive process, right?
Yes.
From the tiny dot to an expansion, physical, and then a lot of variety of, from stars to galaxies to all of that stuff, right? And then from physical, it expands to the life, it expands again, then animal expands again, then humans. And we are the first species who are actually able to grow in consciousness, which we did in the beginning. But it seems to me like now we have become very non-expandable, which you called as a status quoist as a society. But if I realize the true nature of the universe is to expand and grow,
Yeah.
and should I align with that? Is that, how do you,
Very interesting question, Samir. And I completely agree with you, except for that word no. I would replace the word no with be.
okay. Yes, okay,
So-
yes, that's correct.
I may know the purpose of the universe, but that doesn't help me. And
yeah,
I
you're
know
right.
too many brilliant minds, intellects, who know everything there is to know. And they'll give you lecture upon lecture on all this. But when you look closely at them under a microscope, you don't see it. You don't see it happening. So it's not, I don't give too much of importance to knowing. I would give far more importance to being. And you may know a lot, but if you can be just this much, as Mother used to say, just a drop of practice is worth more than a sea of theory. So instead of knowing a lot of theory, which doesn't serve any purpose anyway, if you live even a drop of it, live the psychic, even a drop of the psychic, if you can live in yourself, in your life, then you will bring that to your work.
So what does
And
it
what
take?
does that mean? If you bring that to your work, means you will know who's what agendas are working, what pressures are working, what the reality is of your work and the people you work with, and who is who in the scheme of things. There'll be a clearer seeing, a clearer understanding, a courage deep in your being to do what has to be done, which may not just make you unpopular, which may bring your business down.
Yeah.
And are you courageous enough to take that risk? That, okay, let my business be pulled down, but I will do only what in the heart of my heart, in my psychic awareness, I know is to be done. And I will not do what is not to be done in my inner, deeper understanding. Is that, you remember that do no evil. I think the Google started with
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
That do no evil is it's a beautiful, profound statement if you really understand it, because evil can be in such subtle and seemingly innocent forms. You might be doing evil. And I can go on and on explaining how evil can be done without even our knowing that we are doing it.
Yeah, yeah.
So do no evil has to arise from a very deep, very subtle, very psychic understanding of existence, of life, of yourself, of work, of the higher nature of work. So only when we are beginning to live all that in our day-to-day existence, when I'm doing business because I know the higher nature of work, I know the nature of wealth, the true nature of wealth, and then I express that being and that knowing through what I am doing, then it can lead to something beautiful. Otherwise, no. So you're right, it's expansive, yes. But first, as a being, I have to expand.
So wherever my current state is, I need to raise that to an expansion of being. Would that be how does one go about this whole?
Very
First of all,
interesting
how to
again.
know where I am? Because see, you're using describing a certain state, and we can use the word psychic or be, but it's a certain state in which it seems like I'm expanding. I also have an understanding of how things are, but how do I sort of know where I am and make that journey, or make that
So, very important questions you're asking. We need to break down things, drill it down to what I feel doables,
Yes, yes.
tangibles.
Yes, absolutely. That's what we need.
So if you're expanding into a higher being, and for most people, that's not.
It's
You can't grasp
very abstract.
it. It's
Yes.
not tangible. So what is tangible? Tangible would be that how deep do I live within myself? That will be the starting point. How deep do I live? Not I want to raise myself in consciousness, but how deeply am I living right now? Forget about raising myself in consciousness.
What would
right
that
now?
mean?
How deeply am I living? In other words, how deeply means do I live life superficially and get things done because they need to be done? Live for convenience, live for practical realities, day-to-day realities, mundane realities, or my concerns are deeper than the superficial one. That to me, just making money and surviving at a superficial level of success is not enough. I need to make money, but be human at the end of the day. And the people I work with, I want to know that they too are human. I'm not dehumanizing myself, and very importantly, I'm not dehumanizing anyone else.
Yeah.
How many leaders of businesses even have that concern? I find so many people, even those who talk about all this transformation and change and all that, are dehumanizing others. They don't even know they're dehumanizing others.
Yeah.
Because there is a warp in them, a twist, which expresses itself everywhere, and unfortunately, tragically, they themselves can't see it. And I also know a lot of people, if you start telling them about the twist, they get angry because they can't take it. So, not to get angry when someone is saying, sir or ma'am, there is a twist in you, there's a warp, needs humility of an extraordinary kind. You need to be a deeply learning individual. So a person who lives deeply is one who's in touch with that childlike learning state, which has no anger or arrogance in it. You can say anything, this person will listen because that person is deeply humble. It's only an arrogant person that cannot listen and gets angry. So we have to replace all that. I mean, you can't get angry. You have to be deeply patient, deeply compassionate, first to yourself, then to others. So all this, how does all this happen? These are not things that you mentally understand and then you practice. These are things that will happen naturally to you if you're in touch with something deeper within yourself, which you and I are calling the psychic.
Actually, one other thing which I remember for my own process starting was that the idea which you had taught us to just be aware, pay attention. So let's say if I wish to do what you are saying, one other thing which comes to me is, be more listening and receiving.
Yes, be more listening. Yes.
Or first watch myself and see how much do I even, let's say I want to do that, right? I have to now see how much of listener I am, because I might have an impression of myself.
Absolutely wonderful.
To verify my own self and see where are my gaps.
Yes. Now, if you just see what you've just said, to be a listener, what does that mean? Really? When do you listen? You listen when there is no defense mechanism in you anymore. You're not defending this fragile thing called the ego inside you anymore.
Yes.
So there's no defense mechanism. You've not built any walls around yourself. However subtle and fancy these walls may be, they're all gone. So you're in a state of complete openness and vulnerability. That's when you listen. And that listening comes from humility. It comes from a deep, deep need to be more than what you are. In human terms, not more not in terms of the ego. Everyone wants to be more in terms of the ego, but to be more in terms of human consciousness.
So on a practical level, Partho, what comes to me is that, and because I've seen myself at different stages, one is a listening is that I am not even allowing the other person to physically talk. I'm just dominating.
Yes, at very crude level.
Stage
that
one.
Happens,
Stage two is that I might be not talking, but in my mind, like within me there is always stuff going on basically. Like while you are talking, but my own mind, my own emotions are still
Yes,
going on.
yeah.
And then the third, which I have seen, is where I'm somehow the surface is calm basically. The mind is just letting things happen. The vital is letting things happen. And there is still somebody who's listening.
Yeah.
So to me, that also allows me to relate with when you say, how deep do you live? So maybe when my mind is not active on the surface, but there is still listening. So maybe I'm living
Right.
at a slightly deeper state behind maybe.
Right.
And then that listening happens, which also means to me not having my own agendas,
Yes.
not having distractions, things like that. I mean, that's some, because what will take me away from this conversation, either I have an agenda to drive, or I'm not really interested. I have 10 other things which are.
Yes, yes. And this listening has a very interesting dimension to it. And you know about some of the kings of old,
Yeah.
the stories that come down to us. There used to be these kings. Vikramaditya was one of them, I think, who would disguise themselves as a common man
Yes.
and would go out into their kingdoms
Yes.
and would spend time with very ordinary folk and listen to what they feel about their king. And that would be their greatest lesson in management and leadership. See, if I'm a CEO of a conscious organization and I have people around me, and I listen to what those who are closest to me tell me about my work and my company, then that's not going to get me anywhere, because they're going to tell me what I want to hear. This happens even in conscious organizations. I've seen it happening. People will tell the CEO or the leader exactly what he or she wants to hear. Because at the end of the day, everyone wants to save his or her job. You're not with revolutionary beings. And if revolutionary people come into your organization, they'll get ejected from the system, because you can't call a spade a spade.
Yeah.
You can't go up to the person and say, sir, something's wrong. So people who will tell you the truth will not survive. People who will survive and grow with you are those who will never tell you the truth. So how do you know the truth? How do you know what you are finally as a leader? What are you doing to people around you? Not just making money. Anyone can make money. In a manner of speaking, even an evolutionary idiot can make money. In fact, most evolutionary idiots are making money. But what impact are you bringing at the human level? What deep change are you bringing to people who are working with you and who look up to you as a leader? So you have to go out in disguise, metaphorically speaking.
I get your point.
That is an important dimension of listening. Do I listen deep enough to know what the people are thinking about me, how they are being affected by me, how am I impacting them? What they feel deep inside themselves, and they would tell me if I were to let down all defense. That is deep listening.
That is also deep living.
And then that leads to deep, and that deep listening will come from deep living, because at a very deep level you want to grow as a human being.
Yeah.
And I think one of the most unfortunate things that happen to the lesser human beings is that they become leaders too early. If as a lesser human being you become a leader, all possibility of evolution is finished, because no one is going to let you grow after that, because you are in that kind of position where you can get away with pure nonsense. So that's a tragedy, actually.
So actually, if I were to talk from,
I mean, if you just remove a person from position of authority completely and take him or her out of all that and just leave him or her there as a person, there'll be so much possibility of growth after that, because then there are no filters, no walls, no defense mechanism. People will not tell you what you want to hear. They'll tell you what is true. And then,
do you think there is a narrative which is fed into people that if you wish to be a leader, this is how you should be?
yes.
And a lot of people never think first principle. What would they, as you said, right? If I took a person out of the narrative and let them be a leader on their own, versus the moment I think I want to. So I've seen two things, by the way, Partho. One thing, and I'm talking about the entrepreneurship, which is more educated people do. So one thing people do is, I want to start a business, let me go to a MBA school. That is a very common thing. And I mean, we've had And and then they teach a certain narrative of what does it mean to be a business leader. Second is, in the startup world, people don't go to business school, but they start consuming the narrative which is there out there in terms of.
Yes, you're right.
So that narrative is basically that then we start that we allow it to tell us what to do.
Yes, like
and it will tell me, even if a
Yes.
soft person, that I must become
Yes.
harsh and authoritative.
Yes.
Otherwise,
Yes. Or practical.
Yeah.
You know, in the name of practicality, we get away with so much of nonsense. Like Chanakya used to say that if you wish to be a king, a true king of people, your first lesson is not, I mean, I'm using it in modern day language, it's not to go to an MBA school, but to go to a guru. The king's first lesson has to happen, first lessons have to happen at the feet of a spiritually enlightened being. That was what Chanakya always believed. If you wish to be a true king of people, then you have to first go to a guru to learn how to be a true king. That dharma of being a king, Raj Dharma, has to come to you from the soul of an enlightened being. Then you can become a true king. But if you end up going to an MBA, or equivalent to an MBA, or a management school, you're not going to become a king of people. No way. You're just going to learn how to make money and be smart. And that's what most of MBAs are all about. They just teach you how to be smarter,
yeah.
not wiser.
Yes. See, because there is a MBA narrative and there is a startup MBA, if you
Yes.
call it, and both of them are
MBA should be
feeding the
just as
same
tools,
Yeah.
management tools, and there may be hundreds of better management tools than what MBA can give you, and a person should have that in mind even when he or she is going for an MBA course, that this is not the end of the world.
So if we were to, I mean, actually the way I look at the world today, the true kings are the top entrepreneurs. The ones who
Yes,
are, right?
yes.
Or they are at least as big a king as a head of a government, right?
See the kind of power these people have.
Yes.
Power over people and their lives, their destinies. These are kings, of course. I mean, leaders, CEOs, they have so much power over people and their lives. These people can do so much to change conditions. But if they haven't changed themselves, if they still are what they used to be 20 years ago, people I personally know what they used to be when they were in school and college are today, even as CEOs, they're still the same people. Nothing inside has changed. So the same insecurities and arrogance and the same whatever they had in them in those years, they still have. There's so much of the opportunity to make a true and deep change is lost because they haven't been prepared that way.
So, so if I am somebody who's on trajectory of entrepreneurship, I may be thinking of starting, or I may be starting, or I might be somewhere in between, right? So, and I resonate with what you're talking about. So I understood two things which are very tangible to me. One is to active listening and deep living. Right?
Yes.
Deep listening and deep living, where I observe myself and see how much noise.
And listening as a total act.
Yes.
Not just
No,
hearing.
as a there is no
Agreed.
ripple on my, or maybe my ripples are reducing, let's say.
Agreed.
Second, which is something which is a DIY, so people can try to do it themselves. But the second point which you made was to find an enlightened soul who can help you sort of progress on that journey. So I would say how to go about that, because the first one I can do on my own. The second one, again, there is a lot of popular narrative about what is a guru and who to go to, which again people get lost with.
Yeah, I don't give too much of importance to that because I feel that if you have a true...
In the modern world, because maybe in the past we had gurus which you can go to, but today...
Yes. So in today's world too, if you are truly a seeker, the difference is a seeker. Now most people say when you use the word seeker, they'll think of a spiritual life and that kind of a thing. But no, you can be a businessman and a seeker. In fact, the more of a seeker you are, the better a businessman you'll be. Some of the best leaders, genuine leaders that I know of, very few, handful, are true seekers. Why are they true seekers? What are they seeking? They are seeking the truth. Now, what is that truth? It's not something up there, like abstract, metaphysical truth. truth you're seeking is the truth of yourself. What are you? The moment you say that I seek the truth about myself, you'll inevitably be open to everyone around you. Can't be otherwise. How will the truth come to you? So a seeker is one who is seeking truth about himself or herself, the truth about what he or she does, why he or she does what he or she does. It's too easy for most of us to sort of gloss over so many things we do because it's just not important for us. Or, in the larger scheme of things, these things have to be done. But just like the devil is in the details, the divine too is in the details. How are we living in details? So if you try that, if you start seeking the truth in microscopic details, it'll transform you in just a few days, it'll transform you as a human being. So you have to be a seeker in everything that you do, in everything that you are. True seeker. If you are that, you will find the teachers, Samir.
Well, they will come.
You will know that there is in each of us, there is an instinct, a deep intuitive sense within to know who's genuine, who's not. Every one of us has it. It's another story that we don't want to look at it. It's inconvenient to be with people and people at one level you're fond of and at another level are not genuine. It's very difficult. Life becomes difficult. But if you remove all those inconveniences of the surface, if you really want to live a deeper life, you'll find that every one of us instinctively, intuitively, we know who is what. It's another matter we don't articulate that. So if you're really living in your depths and you're a seeker, you will know who to go to for what. And Guru does not come to you in one form. Guru comes to you multiply. And if you're truly a seeker, that's what I mean by a true seeker. You will just sort of home in on the person who can add value to your life and your consciousness. You will.
See, also when you're talking about seeking truth and also seeking that understanding, one thing which comes to my mind is that there is also this artificial habit of surface curiosity. Like a bunch of people have learned that because maybe in school it was a virtue to be a curious child, which means ask questions of teacher, but you may not care about it.
Right.
And that carries on. Like I've met a lot of people who would ask me, what do you do? And actually no interest.
And then not follow through.
So we are talking about a deeper seeking, which is truly pure and genuine.
Yes.
Of understanding of truth, why things happen.
Yes.
Yeah.
A seeking.
You're
right. A seeking for knowledge, not just information.
And without having an agenda of, wanting to know for the...
Yeah. So it's always first information. Yeah. So your seeking has to be for knowledge and not information. Then seeking for wisdom and not just knowledge. And then seeking for truth and not just wisdom.
Because see, when I look at my own nature as a person, I would always try to seek. For example, my nani used to say that I never brought a toy home because I would just break it open to see what's happening, right? So that is one degree of expression, but
of your curiosity.
And at some level it's satisfied, but then it breaks down because the answer is not complete.
Right.
And then there is a need to grow more and grow more and grow more. At some point you...
So think about it. If you had that kind of a teacher who would gently nudge you to ask deeper questions.
Yeah.
Okay, fine, you've broken the toy.
Yeah.
Now what? What do you do with the broken toy?
Yeah.
That would make all the difference.
Yeah, because that's what I've seen, that I've always thought about why something is happening, and it leads to some understanding, and then one is okay with that.
Yeah.
But then after some time you start seeing gaps in that.
Yeah.
And then you look to fill those gaps, and then maybe one day sort of you come to that process where all you do is seek.
Yes. Yeah. So an entrepreneur has to be a revolutionary, has to be a seeker, and has to be motivated by something deeper.
Yep. Okay. Good, Partho. I think we had a fairly deep conversation today. Maybe we can take a pause for now and we'll continue the
Sure.
conversation in the next
Absolutely,
session.
yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.